So, going from the best race of 2020 so far to the most boring race of 2020 so far. Like, literally, nobody could pass anyone, like, without having to use, like, lap traffic. So, yeah. Kevin Harvick, of course, dominated as soon as he got to the lead. Like, 2018 all over again, like, nothing happened. Basically, there was like a 5-second gap between first and second at one point. And of course, the one dominant car all day, probably one of the dominant cars anyway, ended up going and winning the race. Like, why are, like, mile-and-a-half tracks that are 500 that have 500-mile races like this and Texas? Isn't it a coincidence that both of those tracks have the most boring races of the year? Like last year's version of this race was boring, and then the year before that was boring. Like, the last good race at Atlanta was probably, like, 2015 or something, when stuff actually happened. Like, in this race, like, literally nothing happened, except for a couple of pit road penalties and Clint Boyer not knowing how to save his tires. But, yeah, literally nothing happened today. Just like nothing ever happens at Atlanta. Like, Either this track needs to be repaved, or we're gonna, like, have to stop racing here. Like, here in Texas, which coincidentally both had races this weekend, and both of them were absolutely terrible. I don't care if one of them was IndyCar, but, yeah. Like, at least the truck race was a little entertaining. And at least AJ won the Xfinity race. But still, both of those races, like, nothing happened. Like, and of course, nothing was as boring this weekend as this race today. Like, literally nothing happened for the entire 500 miles in this race. Like, mile-and-a-half tracks, it's like, I don't think that it's a really big coincidence that they have the worst races of the year. Every single year, like the most boring ones anyway. Like, Texas always has very boring races every single year. Like, there wasn't a good Texas race since, like, I don't even know when. Like, Texas hasn't had a good race in years. And, of course, there's Atlanta, too. Like, notice that both of them are basically the exact same, the exact same shape of the track. Like, almost the exact freaking same. Like, I think NASCAR needs to stop racing. Either stop racing at Atlanta or repave it or something. Just, like, seriously. Atlanta's races every single year are always so boring. Literally every single year. So yeah, out of a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give it 3. Like, that's basically it. I mean, the only reason that it's a 3 instead of, like, a 1 is because there were more than one dominant car. Like, at times. Like, at least Kevin Harvick didn't lead, like, the entire race like he did in 2018. But yeah, of course, Martin Truex. Yeah, you just decide to. I don't know. Martin Truex goes on and dominates both stages. Actually, didn't dominate stage 2, but still won it. Well, at least it wasn't Kyle. At least it wasn't Kyle Busch. Because once Kyle got the lead on that pit cycle, like right after stage 2, I thought that he was gonna pull away with the win. No, it's gonna be another driver passing him, which I thought was good. But then he ended up pulling away instead. So, my battery's running on low battery. My phone's running on low battery right now, so I'm gonna stop recording. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you at Martinsville on Wednesday.